One of the important things we have to consider within these job functions, especially within the security realm, is what we call the segregation of duties. Now, the segregation of duties is designed to make sure that no one person can do it all in the realm of security, especially for diverse and critical functions, like somebody in charge of the custody of the assets, or for authorization services or recording transactions. If you can't find the chance to segregate a duty or a job, then you might want to look at other types of compensating controls that you can use to reduce the risk of potential weakness. Now, I like to think of these military thrillers that you watch in the theaters or on TV. And a common scene that I see in some of these, is you've got somebody rogue who wants to launch the nuclear bomb off the ship. And to do that, though, they need to have two keys, right? It takes two people to sit there and launch this. And they have the positions for the keys so far apart that you humanly couldn't get to both because you need to turn them simultaneously. And the reason for that is simply to say that no one person could launch those bombs. It needs the collusion of somebody else. We can think of the same thing within your networks. If the custody of your assets, if it's under one person, that can be a problem. Let me talk about this in a realm outside of IS. Think of a law enforcement where you might have a bureau chief whose job would be to keep track of those assets that are seized, forfeitures, drugs, property, and those types of things. There is a lot of controls and segregation, of those things that they do, so that no one person would be able to basically get in there and steal the assets, steal the drugs, steal the money, and take it home, bring it back, whatever those cases are, without going through a series of checklists and other personnel that are involved within that process. And they're constantly basically, double checking each other's work for that same reason, because the thought is, if one person wants to do something that is illegal, fraudulent, they make that choice. But if they need to help or have the help of somebody else, that's the collusion, then the odds of them committing those crimes becomes lower, because they are going to risk detection if they start trying to recruit people to help them, right? They might ask the wrong person, they'll go turn them in, and those types of things. So, that's kind of the ideas behind the segregation of duties. And hopefully we can see, especially in the realm of security, that it's very important, because we don't want somebody who's basically running the show solo to be able to, open up holes in the networks and do all sorts of bad things to our network if they wanted to. And like I said, if you are a small department and you don't have 2, 3, 10 people to split those duties in between, then we have other compensating controls. Again, it could be audit logs, system logs to notify us of changes, and things like that to try to help keep people on the up and up. Other things we might have that separation with are things like transaction authorization, which is usually the responsibility of the user department. So let me put it in another realm. Let's talk about banking. I try to use analogies to make some sense out of this. I might have a loan officer who is able to approve loans up to a certain dollar amount. And the reason for that sometimes is because maybe they're new, they're inexperienced, they need to have their work double-checked. But at the same time, it's just so that I can't go give family members a $100,000 loan if I'm only authorized to give out $5,000. So from there, I then need to have somebody else come in to review the work and to help add their input into the authorization. The same can be true in many of the different IS departments. Transaction authorization might just be simply as something as benign as just entering a new user into the Active Directory database. It could be something to do with financial statements or financial transfer of money. That again, we want to have that type of duty separated, where we have a series of checks and balances. As I said, with the custody of assets, should be determined and assigned appropriately. Always again with somebody else to have to work together to be able to check assets in or to check them out, or however it is, whether it's actually somewhere physically or stored in some location. The access to data can be a combination of physical, system, and application securities that we put together to again separate those duties and those functions. When you think about it, to access data. If I walk into a large financial firm and they have guards at the front desk that might not even work for the company, many times these are hired third-party physical security personnel that don't care who you are or where you work. Their job is to log who you are, see if you have proper access to the data to let you in. The system, of course, right, would have usernames, passwords, smart cards. Same with applications. You might need a password before you can start them up. All of those are things that, again, we try to look at as far as the separation of duties to keep people honest. Now, from there, of course, you might think about using things like the authorization forms, which somebody actually has to fill out, get signed to be able to get those authorizations. So if I say I need access to this accounting software, I've got to fill out a form. It's got to be approved, and then boom, you'll get that access. You turn it in and submit it. And yes, people get annoyed. They say, "Wow, what about this bureaucracy? All these forms and paperwork." And yeah, okay. Remember, the idea is that we're doing this in a way that we can avoid fraudulent access or unauthorized access. You could also utilize authorization tables. The tables can pretty much say, your job, duty, and functions require these capabilities and authorizations, and we match you up on that table with what you do and what you need, and design our systems that way. Now, one of the things we said that, if you're a small department or have a small staff that are running in the IT department, you probably don't have the ability to put in the real segregation. So that's where the compensating controls can come in. And one of the big ones I mentioned already were audit trails. That's an essential component of any well-designed system, whether you're using segregation or not. The audit trail is keeping track of what people do. In the realm of AAA, which we talk about a lot, which stands for authentication, authorization, and accounting, audit trails are the accounting part of it. Right? The authentication is who you are, proving who you are, verifying your identity. The authorization is, now that we know who you are, what are you allowed to do? And then the accounting part of it is keeping track of what you did. And that's one of the things we can do. Now, the goal of the audit trails, or logs, some of you might think of them as syslogs, but syslogs are often keeping track of hardware components and other types of failures. But the goal is that if I noticed an irregularity, I can go back through those logs and find out when that occurred, and hopefully by whom and where they were when they made those changes. So again, knowing that those logs exist, if I was about to do something fraudulent, I'd have to say to myself, okay, there's going to be an audit trail that says I did this thing, and so it might, maybe convince me not to try it. Hopefully, you've hired people who don't have those thoughts to begin with. But it's something we have to anticipate and we work for in our overall security design. Reconciliation is something we can do. We do that. It's performed by the data control group through the use of control totals and balance sheets. And of course, especially in the world of all these different types of e-finance options, we have electronic funds transfers and electronic payments and electronic banking and all these really cool things. It's important. Just as if I had the old-fashioned cash register and till full of money, we count those things, right? We reconcile what you started with, what you've ended with, and the receipts of what you've done, right? The records of your transactions. So do the same thing, again, as a way to compensate for segregation of our duties. Exception reporting should be handled at a supervisory level and require evidence. So if somebody did go outside the normal procedures that we have, they would have to make a report about what they did, why they did it, and it should be reviewed, right? So people should look at it and sign off on it. Transaction logs, whether they're manual or automated, are just that. They're data records of the different types of transactions. And so, sometimes people say, you can't define a word by using that word in the definition, right? So I said transaction logs and our records of transactions. Remember, a transaction, especially in the database world, means a series of events or actions that must completely finish 100%, or all of it's rolled back. And I tell people the example, if you go buy something online, you go buy a widget from my company online. So you place the order. Well, what happens when you place the order? I have to connect to your bank to see if you have funds available to pay, and if you do, take them out, put them into my bank. I have to check to make sure I have that item in inventory, and if I do, I have to tell the folks in inventory to take it out, send it over to the shipping people. The shipping people have to then be able to get it, package it, put it onto some, right? All of those things have to happen. If they don't all happen 100%, I got to tell you, I don't get the widget I ordered. I don't want my money in your bank account, right? So a transaction occurs 100% or it doesn't occur at all. And transaction logs keep track of that. Now, they can be updates to records, they could be new records, deletions of records, but they keep track of those things. A manual transaction log is basically, a sheet of paper. If you've ever gone to, I call it the low-tech type of security, for a server room, and I've been to a couple of them in some of the hospitals, where there's a clipboard on the wall, and it's kind of the honor system. I mean, there is a camera watching, so they would know if you're there and you didn't sign in. But anyway, you signed in, right? You signed in saying, I was here. Boom. That's the transaction log. It's a manual one. But it's there to be reviewed, to be able to verify the actions. And of course, the supervisor reviews is another thing we do as a compensating control. And that's through the supervisor basically doing their reviews through observations and inquiries as far as, basically saying, hey, what you doing today?